in honor of Fred's comic book collection. And I'm going to start by mentioning just a couple of things that I noticed today, and I'm going to put the link to this in the YouTube chat. A press release about the Library of Congress launches effort to transform collections management and access. They have awarded a major contract to open source IT platform Folio. And it's also going to support BibFrame. So they are apparently going to, if I'm reading this press release correctly, they're going to move away from their Voyager system and on to Folio. So that's quite interesting to me. And also, I wanted to mention something that had come up about putting your PDFs into Koha. And there had been some discussion in email lists about, can these be, how to index these? Can Koha index into the PDF? Which, well, no, it can't. And I thought that I would put a record out there, and I'm going to put the link to this record again in the YouTube chat, of a record where we actually have a PDF uploaded to our Koha system, our Koha catalog, and it's for a maritime labor history bibliography. And we also uploaded the Microsoft Word docx file too. So it's not just PDFs that can be uploaded and attached to your bibliographic records. And one reason we did this is that the compiler of the bibliography keeps compiling. It's ongoing, and he keeps adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. So the record I created is open, and every time he sends me a new release, a new update, I simply need to upload a new file. So I thought that example might be useful for people. So I'm so glad to see so many of you here in the Zoom room. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
Hi, everyone. I just wondered if you guys would be interested in seeing what we do with Auto Hotkeys, which is a third-party product that basically enables you to encode macros to a much greater extent than Koha does. It only works in advanced cataloging, but if you're interested, I can do a little demo of what we do.
Yes, Anna. Yes, Anne. Yes, please. I would love to see that.
So just let me know, and I will fiddle around and see if I can do the demo for you guys.
Just a moment. We're going to set up the share for you.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, while you're figuring that out, I'll
Okay,
mention my work laptop just died. So the importance of having my macros in Koha has become even more important to me.
Or saving your macros somewhere else.
Yes, right. Backup. Okay, and
back up.
Yes, can you share?
I don't see a share. Hang on, I've got a share screen here. Right, okay. So, share. I think you guys want to see all this.
Got it. Good.
Yeah, very exciting. Okay, so I'm just going to open up our instance of Koha. Okay.
Just so you know, your resolution is really high, so things are really small, just so you know.
I'm sorry. Is there something that I can do about that, or is that just the way it is?
You could do a control, or are you on a PC?
Yes.
You can do a control, is it control plus? Yeah, control plus a few times. That will increase.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Size. There you go. Oh, wait, you can do a control minus to go back a little bit. That's a little big. That's better. There you go, right there.
Right. Okay. So as you can see, you are looking at the advanced cataloging module in Koha. And this will be really familiar to all of you guys that, you know, work in this all the time. And as you know, there are lots of times when you need to add the same data to bibliographic records multiple times. And it's a really cool thing to be able to do, to encode macros to do that. Now, Koha has some capacity to encode macros, but it's nothing like as much as we need. And so here are a couple of examples of things. I'll just check that I've got my auto hotkeys enabled, or we'll have, yes, we do, or we'll have nothing very exciting happening. So if I want to add, which is a really typical thing that we have to do in cataloging all the time, I want to add my 336, 337, 338 block that, you know, you have to do all the time. And actually, I'm just going to go out of this because this is a real record and I don't really want to muck around with it. And find something like that. Okay, so we are a cataloging vendor. We supply bibliographic cataloging to libraries across the whole of New Zealand and in some libraries in Australia too. A lot of the time we're working from very brief records because we're the first people in the world who are cataloging this thing. So OCLC, where we can use it, is great, but often we can't. So we have a lot of records that look like this that need to be upgraded. And you can imagine that we don't particularly want to have to type every single thing in there. So what I've done is set up my macros to work so that I can just do something like Control-3, and it will put that in there, just like that. Another one that we do all the time, you're having to put in 650 fields. So I just type 650 and enter, and it's putting in the whole of the field ready for me to type. So I don't have to do the enter, type, tab business. We have lots of standard things that we need to put into bibliographic records, like a set of genre headings for New Zealand literature, things that were published in New Zealand. So I just type in NZF, whoops, where am I? Not very helpfully, NZF, and it's going to put in that entire block for me just with one set of little commands. Now, how does all this work? So it's a little third-party product which is called Auto Hotkeys. And I'll just open that up if I can. I can't because, just one sec, open it up here. And you can see I've got a whole lot of them set up on my desktop for different instances where I need to work. I want to edit this. You just edit it with Notepad. So you're just creating a little Notepad prompt, and I'm going to go +++ again. I'm not, because it doesn't work on this one. I'm very sorry. Can I make that bigger? View. Zoom.
You can do either the control and the scroll wheel on your mouse, or you can do the control plus or control minus to go up and down.
Right. Control +++. It's not working for that. Settings. View. Zoom.
Oh, that's right. That's not. I was thinking that was Koha or the browser.
It's not Koha. It's a third-party
Yeah.
product. Yeah, view Zoom. You're supposed to be able to use this, but it's whoa.
Oh, there you
There
go.
we go. There we go. Okay. So what it is just a really straightforward script that uses their own little coding tools to tell you what to do. And if I go through it and we go and look for the one that we did there, which was insert all of the 33X fields in there. So my first line is a description of what is going on here. Now that has nothing to do with the code, but it means that it's really helpful for me when I need to go back and find that little piece of code again. I can search for it and know which one I'm doing. The second line tells me what the command is. So in this case, it's a little hat means control, that's its own language, and it's the 3 key, and the 2 little dots mean, the 2 colons mean use this command. And then you literally type in exactly what it is that Koha would be receiving. So it's saying send, which is the command, send inverted in the command enter, which is what you would normally put in to put in a new line, saying send, type 336, and then tab 3 times. The go sub vertical bar is because we don't like the command that Koha uses to insert the delimiter. So we've invented our own one. We like vertical bars because we've used them before and it's a lot easier. And then send a, which is the subfield text, and then you do the whole thing over again. So it's iterating exactly what you would type into Koha. And then when you go right down to the end, it's saying return, and then it's ready. It's saying that command is finished and I'm ready to enter a new one. And as you can see, we use this for tons and tons and tons of stuff. I've got them set up to insert the copyright date with the whole field, not just the little C copyright symbol, to insert pictorial works, juvenile fiction, which is a standard subdivision string that we need to use. We use fiction, which we use 1,000 times a day. And this is a cute little one here to insert the publisher quoted note, which I will go and do a demo of, because it doesn't just insert text at the end. And this is a really horrible example, but you can see I would tidy this up if I were really doing it. But if I just type PUB for publisher and hit enter, it's not only putting publisher at the end, it's going back and putting summary and a set of colons at the beginning. So you can actually be quite clever about how you edit your text within this. It's an open source third-party product, which you can use on top of any text editing solution. And it just makes our lives an awful lot easier, to the point where I tell my staff, anytime you are entering things multiple times, you need to tell me and I will set one of these up for you. It is editable by anybody. It's a little third-party script that sits on your desktop, and you just open it up when you want to use it. You can save it in your backup storage for when your laptop dies. Or you're working, somewhere remotely on someone else's laptop or computer. But it's a really, really useful little tool that we use all the time. So happy to take questions.
So, and you do have to install that on each computer that you would catalog from?
You do. It's a really easy little installation to just download the AutoHotkeys software on your laptop, and you can use the same script. You can share the same script around to lots and lots of people. They've all got AutoHotkeys downloaded onto their laptop, but you can share the actual script with the commands around.
Someone was asking what was the name of the product again?
Auto Hotkeys. AUTOHOTKEYS.
All right, we have another question. Just a second. The question was, where does Notepad++ come into it?
That's what you create the little the command list of scripts. It's just in any Notepad script, in any Notepad feature. We just happen to use ++. So
So
Auto
you're just using
Hotkeys
that
is
particular editor for it,
yes.
and just creating that text file.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just a text file. It can be in any text file product. We just happen to use Notepad because it comes bundled with Microsoft.
I think I might have found the website. I put it in the Zoom chat. If that is the correct product, then I'll put it in the YouTube chat. And then also I'm wondering, is there any place that you could share your macros, even if you just maybe copied and paste them to the Koha-US cataloging listserv?
Yeah, sure. If you send me the link, I'm happy to do that. I mean, they're very a lot of them are very specific to us, but it's
Understood, but like reports, they
they
we
give
can
something to work
understand the
from.
model. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So it's a really great little tool, and it makes our lives a lot easier, and it saves a lot of typing wear and tear. Right. Okay. I'm stopping my sharing now, but I'm still happy to answer questions.
That was great, Anne. Thank you so much. Any more questions or comments for Anne? In the YouTube chat, David Nin says Windows only. Well, one thing we can always do is share our Koha macros on the Koha wiki, and I will look that up and put that link in the chat. And ask, does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
Yeah, we got somebody making their way up here. Just a second.
Great.
Hey, Heather. You may know who this is. Maybe I should put a mask over my eyes so you won't see me after the way I talked about you earlier. I saw on the cataloging group recently, and I have not gone into this deeply because I was working on another project. Putting the table of contents of a journal online, and this may not work. By the way, I usually bring a lot of ideas to the cataloging group that don't work, and then they tear them apart, and then they think, okay, maybe we could do it this way. So could you just create a title field and then put, there's usually a static link to the current table of contents in a lot of journals, and just put a link to that. I don't know if you came up with that idea, but that might work, except it wouldn't be searchable.
On the other hand, if that link, like the Library of Congress's records link a lot to tables of contents online, I mean, one could argue that it's kind of more searchable if it's out there and it's DuckDuckGo searchable, Google searchable, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if OIA harvesting might be the way to go with this, if that's what you want to do. And that's something that Mark Edit does. don't know. I don't do it, but it's that's the direction that I might be looking to grab this data from the website, transform it into something you can plug into your Koha instance.
Yeah, that sounds like it's got great possibilities.
And a lot of journals, at least the ones I work with, will mail you the table of contents whenever a new issue comes out. So you could do something with that as long as the journal proprietors agree with it. We do a lot of business with a major publisher that rhymes with Elsevier. They can get kind of fussy. And I think that's probably all I have to say for this meeting.
Does anybody else have anything?
I have a question.
Sure, Ashley.
So I heard rumor that a development is in the works for creating the option in Koha to make items circulate by reservation instead of just queue, like we normally do. Like the person could not just put a hold on it, but put a reservation for a specific time or day. Has anyone else heard this? Our library is super interested in it because we've had cataloging challenges for Library of Things items. I wonder if anybody else has cataloged their Library of Things. Anyway, I'm throwing it out there.
There is code in process on that kind of stuff. And the idea is for like book groups, with the idea that you can like not have your reserve activated there, but you're automatically up to the top, like sort of kind of thing.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
All right. So for book groups, in like December, you're all going to have this book and you're in a big consortium and you want to get all those books, but you want them to be available at that time. So it's kind of like a reserve in the future, but it's not like a placeholder so much. It's more of like when that happens, the librarians have the ability to slide those groups all to the top to make sure the books are there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is anyone else cataloging Library of Things in Koha and have tips or tricks that we've just found the collection to be have unique needs. And so we ended up going with a third-party software, but we would prefer to have everything be together. So I just thought I'd throw it out there to see if anyone else had experience, thoughts, challenges, tricks.
I do know a few of our partners that have Library of Things that they're doing this kind of cataloging with. The person to ask for the examples of that is Jesse Cesario.
And I would encourage people to put sample records on the Koha Wiki. I will put the link in the YouTube chat for where we have our sample cataloging records. I work in a museum. I put a link to a record of a painting, not your typical public library of things, but it's a thing.
Thank you. That's great. Sorry, my dog was barking. Not everyone wants to hear my puppy go crazy, I'm sure.
It's not a real Zoom meeting without a dog and or a cat.
Right? Are you wearing your pearls, Heather?
I don't have my pearls, but I do have some mother of pearl earrings.
So I thought your pearl
shirt.
clutching was so charming last year when I attended my first conference. And I have I don't actually have a set of pearls, but I have metaphorically clasped my pearls in honor of your.
Yes, we can often clasp our pearls and take to the fainting couch and have our moment and then just carry on with what works.
Oh, well, thank you all.
There was a suggestion in the YouTube chat for the room reservation plugin might be able to work for Library of Things reservations.
So I just wanted to share a story. Hey, Heather, it's Brendan.
Yes, hi Brendan, it's good to
How's it
see
going?
you.
Yeah, definitely. So September 19th is National Talk Like a Pirate Day. And I was working support on that day. And it was probably about 8 years ago. And Heather called up, and so I answered and talked like a pirate. It's like, hello, my matey. And Heather jumped right on it. She's like, I work at a maritime museum. Of course I'm going to talk like a pirate. So it's a good, fun story. Good to see you, Heather.
Good to see you too. And why do we talk like a pirate from Treasure Island? I'll put a link to a book that explains that.
I have a quick question. Oh, I have a quick question. I don't know if it's so much, well, it's partly cataloging, might be
Everything's
circulated.
cataloging.
But we've run into an issue with our Library of Things because we have a few libraries that are doing Library of Things, and some of our Library of Things can go through our regular courier, and some of them cannot. And I'm wondering if anybody has run into that and if you've done any workarounds or solutions so that some of the things can be placed on hold and taken to other libraries or shipped to other libraries, or if some things can be placed on hold and only picked up at the holding library. I guess you could probably use some sort of item type to specify that. I don't know, but just kind of wondering what other libraries are doing.
Item type seems the obvious way to manage that.
That's exactly how we do it, is with item types. We have some item types that are local hold that we have them listed as local hold only. So they're set up so that it's one of the sets on the circulation rules page is you can specify that library. I think you can specify patron category and item type, and then whether it's you can specify whether it can be held at based on the location. So any in a consortial environment, there's one part of the drop down is anybody from any library can place it on hold so long as the pickup location matches this library, and the other one is only people that have the same home library as the item can pick it up, can place a hold on it, and the holding library must match the item library. And then the other one is anybody from anywhere can place it on hold. So that's the way we handle it exactly as with an item type. And that's, as far as I know, that's the easiest way I can think of to handle that. Jason's way at the back of the room without a microphone, and he says that's the way we handle it too.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring to the group?
Yeah, we got somebody coming up.
Great.
I wasn't going to admit that I don't know what this means, but I don't work in a public library. So the Library of Things, does that just mean cataloging things, or is that a term that means anything else other than just cataloging things?
We have several libraries in our consortium here in Northeast Kansas that have cake pans. We have several libraries that have big cake pan collections. We have libraries that have tools. We have libraries that have, one library just added fishing equipment, fishing poles, rods and reels. Yeah, somebody just said, what? Christopher says they have a library with a sewing machine, metal detector tools. Jessica's coming up to the microphone right now, because I know that they have some things. I know they have some dolls that are, I think they're cataloged, but I don't know if you loan them.
So we do have WPA dolls that are, we have what we believe based on research is the largest collection of WPA dolls. And they are encased in lovely little wooden cases that were made by a local carpenter. And they ring around the fiction section of our room so people can all come and see those. But we've actually done my best to photograph them, and they're on our website as well, so people can view them there. But ours are the WPA national dolls. So they are dolls representing different countries. There's also fairy tale one collections and stuff like that. But our other things, which some of them are still in process, we have a small bounce house. We have cake pans. We have crowd control barriers with the tape that pulls out, and we got them in Charger blue just so they match our local team. We have wooden ladders. We have like the centerfold tables and benches. People can borrow those from us as well. And actually, I checked them out under my account and took them to our homecoming game to use for the junior class, was doing a fundraiser. We also have a 10 by 12 canopy and a 10 by 10 canopy that people can use. So no cars. I would love, hint over to George. I would love if we could get some kind of a bookmobile thing to be able to take books to our local nursing homes and stuff, because we have a few little accounts with them, but it's really hard for their reps to come to us. And we don't really have a way to pull things over unless we use our personal vehicles. But even if we could get like a little golf cart that we enclosed or something like that, would be really awesome. And yes, George added our Horton Public Library website to the chat. So, and there are some bugs on my website. I'm having issues getting things to move around. So.
That's so terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, so our Library of Things, we're in Jackson County, Oregon, so Pacific Northwest, and our most popular things are camping equipment. We have a ton of different kind of sporting type stuff. As was mentioned, the sewing machines are quite popular. We have a line of ukuleles, guitars, piano, a drum kit, things like that for people to learn. Those have been very popular. And some cooking equipment. We did like an air fryer, a dehydrator, a sous vide, all these kinds of things, and people really like those as well. So we've had a really fun time with it. It's grown so much that we're actually pulling. We started with board games, a lot of board games, and those are gonna get actually pulled out of the Library of Things because it's so large, and we're gonna just create a regular collection in Koha for them. But yeah, we ended up going with a third-party software that we're hoping we can get to integrate with Aspen, like do an API connection. So at least it would be within the catalog, like more searchable, more visible within the catalog instead of a separate one. But there's challenges with all this stuff. The good news is that it was really pretty, like it's laid out with photo, like a photo catalog kind of feel, but it's not integrated. So anyway, hopefully, maybe we'll do a enhancement and get it out there for everybody, because we're pretty passionate about this Library of Things movement. So
to bring this back. To bring this back to cataloging, the way that, when I got here, this is the first place I had ever worked where there were libraries that had cake pans, but it completely makes sense that how often do you need a Harry Potter cake pan? you know, how often do you need a Christmas wreath cake pan or a choo-choo train cake pan? Ninja Turtles, you know, these are things that maybe for a lot of people would buy and maybe use once or twice. So it makes perfect sense to have them in the library where you can, you know, when you have a 3-year-old, you borrow the Harry Potter cake pan and then it goes out and it gets borrowed by a bunch of other people. But to bring it all back to cataloging, we just created we have a basic framework for those that is a MARC framework that we put in it. We give them a title and we give them a very basic description. And then we use an item type. I think there is an item type that we have called cooking equipment, I think is what it's called now. And they don't go through our courier system. They're an item type that's restricted so that people have to pick them up at the library that owns the items. But the cataloging is just really simple, and it's just we've just used a framework in Koha to create a very basic record for them. So, and well, one of our other libraries, our library in Richmond, Kansas, has Halloween masks. They have a collection of about 50 or 60 Halloween masks. They're in the same basic framework. I think that we have it an item type called clothing and costumes. And the librarian there takes a picture of everyone and uploads an image for each bibliographic record, and then they're all in a list. So you can go and find the Richmond Halloween list, and they're all available quickly and easy to find that way. So
I love the idea of using the list feature.
And for those of you who do check out baking pans and other cookery types, I assume that they have to be returned clean, but are you taking any other steps to make sure they really are clean, like disinfecting them, or it's the hospital librarian coming out in me?
I don't borrow anything. Dude, no joke.
The bedpans are disposable.
Non-returnable loan. So yeah, that's something we definitely had to think about, making sure we assume that most people are going to be considerate, and, you know, just like when we used to have VHS, be kind, rewind, return it as you got it. The hardest issue, I'm that old. Yes, I'm not as young as I appear. The hardest issue is actually getting barcodes on these things, because obviously when you're going to wash something or you put it in an oven, the barcode is not going to stay. I actually got us little polyurethane luggage tags, bought them by the 100-pack, and make little index cards with the barcode and like a picture of the item so they don't confuse our item with one of their items at home. And then, you know, it's just a little removable one. So we do our best to kind of do that, or a little pencil bag case if it's something that can't be attached in any way, like the baking pans. They don't have the little holes in them, or most of them don't, around the rim. So it's something that we just set in it. But yeah, we for the most part try to ask people, like, you know, you have to clean this, right?
So we actually did two things. We did a library of things user agreement that everyone has to sign, and then we just created a patron. It's not a sort field. It's a, you know, you can configure
attribute.
Thank you. A patron attribute that says that they've signed their agreement. So we don't have to keep them all on file. And then we also have a $20 cleaning charge. And we find that just the threat of the $20 cleaning charge will get people to return the item clean. And if they don't, then we charge them and say, you have the opportunity to bring it back clean, and they will do that. So for the most part, it hasn't been a problem.
So for one of our libraries that I am fortunate in the fact that I don't I don't work at any of these libraries that I manage Koha for, so I'm not the person that has to worry about the cake pans coming back clean. But a lot of this stuff, like Jessica said, it is hard to put a barcode on them. One of our biggest collections of cake pans is at the Overbrook Library, and they use those hanging bags like you would do AV kits in, and each one goes in a hanging bag. And I believe that the patrons are expected to clean them, but I also think, I know at one of our other libraries, the Mary Cotton Library in Sabetha, I believe that they have a dishwasher in their kitchen, and that when cake pans are returned, they get put through the dishwasher. I don't know about Overbrook, but I'm sure that they probably have something similar, that they expect the patrons to clean them, but they also have a backup system to make sure that they're sanitized before they go out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they instruct patrons to make sure they're clean before they use them. So, I'm looking right now to try and find the list for the Richmond Halloween Mass, so I can put a link in the chat to the OPAC list we have for our Halloween Mass collection at the Richmond Public Library.
In the chat, we have a comment from Wally that everything that they have classified as a kit is circulated in a case, a Tupperware bin, something like that. I love the idea of a Tupperware bin too.
Heather, I have a question for you. So our library is part of a consortium of 13 libraries. We've been on Koha for about 7 years. And when we started with Koha, we just left the authorities set so that they are created every time we add an item record. It's just willy-nilly authority records everywhere. And I just don't even know where to go to begin to clean that up. Because I just looked for hiking, and there's 7 authority records just for hiking on one type of subject. And it's a lot.
Yeah, authority cleanup is a topic that we're always happy to talk about because no one solution works for everyone. At my library, I started it when we implemented Koha, and we decided to do everything in-house. So I have many reports. A lot of libraries go with a vendor and have the vendor do as much cleanup as they can and return the cleaned database, the matching authority records, and then the things that they were not able to deal with that your human staff will deal with. Yeah, I think it depends a lot on your staffing and your
Right.
funding.
Yeah, and I don't think so. All of our libraries, I don't think any of us have a dedicated cataloger in our libraries. Ours is the largest in the consortium, and we have a team, but nobody who's very rigid cataloging. It's kind of open. Our library uses OCLC, and we download records from them, but the other libraries in the consortium don't pay for it and don't use it. So there's it's kind of a, do we want to pay for cleaning up everybody else's records too? So yeah, I guess that's a good thought though, is to see if we could have them, taken care of and then brought back to us. That's a good solution. We can look into it.
I know a lot of
the thing that I would recommend is turning off your auto creation of authorities now, so you're not making the problem worse.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah. I might have to bring that to the next meeting next month and see if we can do that, because I'm sure we've got plenty of records now. We don't really need to be making more.
Yeah, and the auto creation of authorities is just a very, very basic authority record. There's no cross references. It's just a string. So it's not really adding a lot of value to your catalog.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the argument that no authorities are often better than incomplete authorities, because those incomplete authorities lack the references, they lack what authorities are supposed to be doing that function. In a lot of libraries in your situation or in a similar situation I know of, they can arrange an ongoing contract to have an authority vendor do this on a periodic basis, and it works quite well for them. So a sample of the reports I have, I got a report from the wiki where I can put anything I want, you know, I can keyword search and it pulls up for me all the bibs hyperlinked that is using that text string. And I use that for updating specific bibliographic records for when I need a human, because we have a lot of local terms, or there are terms that have split into multiple terms. So it's not a one-to-one correlation. There has to be a human decision. So that's really good for that human interface. If you decide to do some cleanup, and also if you decide to work with a vendor, you're going to have the ones that they couldn't match and they couldn't deal with. MarcEdit is going to be friendly too. And at times when I worked with situations that had other libraries, if you're in the same catalog, sure, you don't want to be paying to do another library's work, but on the other hand, is it going to be better for your library overall?
Right, exactly. And we tend to be the authority on most of them. We're often overwriting their records and stuff. So it would be probably fine for us to do that. That gives me some things to think about. Thank you.
Of course. And, you know, we're always happy to chat about where you are in the process. And then also for more considered and detailed responses, I encourage people to go to the main Koha email list. I know that there's not a lot of cataloging discussion there, but you know, there can be, and I know I read it, and I know a lot of catalogers do read it. And we do have a koha-US cataloging group, but that's a much smaller universe of catalogers. And authority control is something that I think, you know, it's not limited to MARC or MARC21 or the US. The international global perspective is most helpful. Well, we've got about 15 more minutes. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring today? Sure, we have in the chat, the Zoom chat. Please get up and ask verbally. Also in the Zoom chat was kind of a long comment that I couldn't get into the YouTube chat saying, Wally says they use the materials list to confirm that the bin has all the contents for the kit, like we have American Girl dolls and their outfits, etc. And we list and picture all of the contents, and the materials line pops up for the staff to check before the item is officially checked in. Yes, I believe in the 952. I think that's a subfield 3 in the item record.
So my question was just about the last cataloging meeting I attended. I ended up mentioning MarcEdit, and a bunch of people asked if we could do a video on MarcEdit, and I just want to know if anybody watched that, if it was good, There's somebody else here that participated in that video, so he mostly watched because he doesn't use MarkEdit, but was that good? Do you guys want any more on MarkEdit, or is there anything else we can help you with there, or that I can't? Because obviously Christopher doesn't use it, so he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Do we need a guest? Do you use MarkEdit, Heather? Do you want to be a guest on one of our videos?
I am a MarkEdit newbie and dilettante, but I'm always happy to use it and play around, and that would be totally fun. Your video is great, and yes, I would love to learn and do more. I don't currently have a functioning laptop with MarkEdit right now, but I will soon, I hope.
Well, that was just my question, just to follow up from, I think that might have been 2 months ago at a meeting, or it might have been last month. I really don't remember anything from before yesterday because of the conference. So.
And a comment in the Zoom chat, yes, please, from someone who hasn't used Koha yet, so doesn't know what they need to know, but they do batch updates all the time in the current ILS. Yeah. There are the bibliographic batch processing in Koha has strengths and weaknesses, and Anne uses it a lot and has it can be amazingly powerful and operates in a very different way. And I'm a complete newbie with that one. And then MarkEdit does a lot of other different things.
We use both. We use both the internal Koha tools for batch updating and MarkEdit, because there's definitely some stuff that MarkEdit does that Koha does not do or doesn't do at the moment. So if you want to edit anything to do with indicators, for example, Koha is not your friend, but MarkEdit does that really well. And MarkEdit has some sophistication in it that Koha does not have. So if I want to, for example, remove trailing spaces from every field, you know how you're entering data and you put the full stop and then you've got 3 spaces after it. Some of our customers really dislike this. It upsets their internal processes. I can write a one-line script in MarkEdit to strip that off every single mark field, but I can't do that in Koha. I'd have to specify that in every single type of mark field, and I'd much rather do it once.
I just want to build off of George's comment. We do a lot of videos on hacks and things that I'm familiar with, and I know a lot of the regulations and a lot of just like that, and we know a lot of the background stuff, but I don't know a lot of cataloging. And George, brought the MarkEdit topic to our videos, but if there are other hacks that you know of, or things, workflows, things that you've learned that you would like to see videos on, you can certainly bring them to our attention and even join in, because I know nothing about cataloging other than how to make a record very loosely. We would love to have more ideas that encompass other aspects of Koha than just what we tinker around with.
In the Zoom chat, we have a great comment that says, Christopher only knows how to make the kinds of records that would give Heather a heart attack. Oh, I can show you a record.
That was George.
Catalogers
Thank
can
you.
teach anybody to catalog.
Well, I know that I, for one, am going to start making a note of my batch record editing desires because these could be some really good examples for some of these training videos then on the batch record modifier, mark edit, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And the Koha functionality is really good for most of what you need to do. So for example, a couple of days ago, we use a special mark field, a 938, to mean something internal for our operation. And that was fine, and it works really well. But I did a report on it to see how it was being used, and I got some anomalous results and went and investigated and found that one of our catalogers had been happily importing records from an external source that was using 938 for a completely different purpose. Which was upsetting all my statistical data. And I was able to write a nice little report on Koha to identify all of these records, a nice little SQL report. Oh, I feel so happy that I can do this now. And pull up the records with the batch of bib record numbers and just feed that into the mark modification process with a little script in the templates to saying strip out this data that we don't want, and it works beautifully. So, it is, for most of what you need to do, it works really well.
That's great. I always kind of wish too that there was some sort of like an animation of confetti when it works so great.
When you hit run on that SQL report and it actually runs and doesn't give you an error message, that's when you want the confetti.
Yes, indeed. And I'm going to take an opportunity to give a plug for adding reports to the Koha Wiki and also to Mana, because I get a lot there. Well, we have a few more minutes if anybody has anything else. Oh, Wally in the Zoom chat says Lucas did some confetti for him for something. Oh, that's something I want to see.
I think that's probably a bug that needs to be added to Bugzilla, so that when your report runs, you get little,
Yes.
Can I ask about labels?
Please.
So what is everybody doing for spine labels when you print? We've been on Koha for, this is our second year, and we came from Polaris and have yet to really determine a great way of printing labels when we're cataloging. Currently, I have a little Dymo printer and I'm just like typing in my own call number and hitting print at the same time. So I'm not actually having the plugin or anything work. But other libraries that we work with do other things, and it just seems like nobody's doing anything consistently that works. So I'm just wondering, what are y'all doing?
I used to
I can
have a
tell you
little
that our
wonderful
library.
Zebra. Oh, I was just going to say quickly, I had a wonderful little package of Zebra software, but an upgrade at work worked it. And so I just started using Koha's label functionality for barcodes and spine labels for some things. I'm going to experiment with the plugin. I would encourage people to search the main Koha list archives because people often mention their model of label printer and what they do. But it's just something I'm really interested in too. Christopher?
Yeah, our library, this much I know because I had to work on it extensively to get it to work for them. But we use the regular label option in Koha to create the labels, and we are printing them on a little desktop laser printer on Avery sheets. So we're not using the plugin, but we are using Avery sheets. We managed to work out the spacing and everything, and we print out the bigger barcodes, the batch barcodes on that. So we basically export to a PDF and then print the PDF on the sheet. But as far as, we have a Dymo label maker as well, and we do some of our, like, if we're doing hubs for discs, we do that right in the Dymo program itself. But we do have, little square labels that we print for the occasional, just single spine labels. We use a little quick label creator, and I tweaked it a little bit so that it didn't, need so many clicks to get through it, and it would go back and ask for the next one. But we're using the quick one to print to the little 1-inch squares instantly. So we'll scan it and it'll just print it right out. So we do a combination.
I'm going to say really quickly, great topic to take to the Koha list. Great topic also to keep bringing to our cataloging meetings, and would be happy to get into more nitty gritty. We have a quick question before we end in the YouTube chat. Does anyone use automatic item modifications by age?
Yeah, George is coming up for that one.
I do, so I'm not sure what kind of, I've already forgotten the name of who posted that in YouTube, just in the time it took me to walk up here. I'm not sure what kind of specific questions that they might have, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Just you can email George at nekls.org, nekls.org, with specific questions about item modifications by age.
Great, thank you, George. And then maybe also that could turn into a terrific video.
Yeah, we'll try to make it terrific. So yeah, we need to wrap up here. So Heather, go ahead and close up, and we're going to get into our next SIG meeting in just a moment. But thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I hope to see you at our next cataloging special interest group, October 6th. Yeah, it's a little too early for Anne, that's for sure. I love having special ones at a different time of day. So maybe we'll just do that every so often to capture different audiences, because we always have so much to talk about. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Thanks for coming.